Okay, my name is Vic Jaras, and I want to welcome you to the webinar for the Fall 2013 grant application for 21st century after-school programs. This is what we're going to go over today. A lot of very important topics pertaining to the grant, and it's okay if you don't become an expert after this brief webinar. If you have questions afterward, feel free to email me or call me, and I'll do my best to address those questions. Okay, let's look at the timeline. As you know, we had scheduled this for September, and right a week before the release of the RFP, we got our results of our federal audit. They came and visited us in May, but we didn't get the results until September. And they had some language in there that said some things you have 30 days, some you had 60 days, some you had 90 days to address. But all of them said you have to address this stuff before you can release the grant. So we addressed everything within 30 days. However, once we sent in our response, the government shut down, and then we had to wait some more. We did get approval from the feds 2 weeks ago, but I was in Washington for a week, and we've been rescheduling our calendars to accommodate this rollout. We've already had one workshop, and this is our first webinar. We have an online letter of intent, like we had last year, and our final webinar will be in December. Let's go over some of the important dates. Right now we're having workshops. Next week I will be in Des Moines, and it's going to be at the library in West Des Moines, right next to the West Des Moines Learning Center. And you can get the exact address from the Iowa After School Alliance or go to the DE website. By December 16th, you have to have gone online and done the survey, the online letter of intent. That helps us to know how many grant reviewers that we need. On the 19th, we'll have our final webinar going over questions that people have had and taking additional questions. January 24th, we've got continuation grants due. The 31st, the new grant applications are due. We're giving you pretty close to the same amount of time as last year. Now, you're going to need to get everything in to us by 4:30, and that includes an electronic copy as well. Then February 14th to March 4th, we're going to have grant reviewers read and score the applications. On March 6th, we're going to have a grant reviewing conference. In April, we'll announce the awards, and in April and May, we'll complete contracts, and the program will start June 1st. Some additional information. The total funding available is $6,029,497. Now, if you've tried to email me, you're going to probably get an autoresponder, and sometimes people look at that cover page and they will email my secretary, Melinda Hughes Reynolds. Don't ask her a question. She's not going to be able to answer it. What she will do, though, is send that over to me. So if you send an email to me and then you don't get you get the autoresponder, and then you send an email to Melinda, then I get 2 emails with the same question. But I do monitor my emails, and 99% of the time you'll get a response the same day. Let's go over how you find the application materials on the Iowa Department of Education website. That address is educateiowa.gov. And you can see kind of what it looks like. We've had a new makeover, so if you've been to our page last year and you get on this year, there are some changes. That's why we're going over it on this webinar. Last year, when you went to the A to Z index, we were at the very top, but now, for whatever reason, we're the fourth one down. But just remember, we're 21st century community learning centers, and you'll be able to find us from that A to Z index. And when you get into that page, this is kind of what it looks like. You'll see my contact information up on the side. You'll want to scroll down on this page till you get to the FY14 request for application section. And this is what that section looks like. You can then click on the link to any of these items and download them to your computer. You're going to need the application and all of the appendixes. So all of these things are going to be useful in helping you with your application. If you look at there's a 21st century funding formula. That's a spreadsheet that helps you to estimate grant amount based on the number of kids that you're planning to serve. This grant focuses on serving the needs of children. So the amount of money in your request needs to be backed up by how many kids you're going to serve. Here's where we're going to have our application workshops. We've already had the Sioux City one. Our next stop is the Des Moines area, and followed by Cedar Rapids, and followed by Ottumwa. So this time we're doing 4 locations around Iowa. And here's a little bit more details. It's going to be at the AEA in Cedar Rapids and the AEA in Ottumwa. And if you need further information, directions, or you have questions about the location, contact Indira, and her information is right on this slide. All right, let's go over some of the highlights. Some of these things were in place last year, but they're worth repeating now, just so that you've got a good understanding. This grant has minimum standards, and that's been a problem for our small rurals because they may not have enough kids to meet that minimum award size. What I would suggest if you're a small rural is to try to partner with another district. It's okay for this grant to have 2 or more districts working together so that you meet that minimum size requirement. Maximum awards for this grant are $150,000 per site or $300,000 per application. This year we also have a limit of 1 application per year per district. And that's because there's an equity provision of the ESEA, and I cited that on this slide, that requires us as a state to distribute the funds in an equitable manner as broadly as possible across the state. Another important change is our application is linked to a new monitoring tool. When we responded to the feds, I had to write 29 pages about what we were going to do for each item in their audit. And the biggest thing was this monitoring tool. And it's a document that's aligned with the Elementary Secondary Education Act, and it's going to be very useful for us to have high quality programs because it shows you the different areas of your program and what you should be doing. Here's what it looks like in the application. You can see the monitoring item in the column on the left, and in the middle is the supporting documentation. Now, let me say this. You do not have to have every single one of those supporting documentation pieces. Think of those as multiple ways that you can be successful. Okay? You don't need to have every single one of them. Although it's not uncommon for people to have more than one of these areas to show that they're meeting that standard. And then in the application, we ask that you address these items in your narrative. Okay, this was in previous applications, but it's worth stressing, and that is that you must consult with private, non-public school officials during the design and development of your grant, which means you're attending this, you decide you want to apply, you should be contacting them now. And we have a form that's in Appendix A that you need to fill out, and we're looking for not just that you filled it out and put somebody's name on there. We want to have a meaningful consultation documented on there. That's part of the federal statute, and we are looking at that. So it hadn't been stressed before, and some folks thought it was new, but it is not new. It's been this way since the beginning of this grant. So if you have any questions on this and how you would apply it in your area, feel free to email me or call me and I'll be happy to help. Okay, we begin our programs now on June 1st, and that's so that we can align with the federal PPICS reporting system and the school fiscal year. I mean, that gives us credit. And if we didn't do this in the past, we started different parts throughout the year. If you don't start with summer school, you lose credit for almost an entire year. And then that makes it look like we're getting money in Iowa, but it's not clear what we're doing with it. So this is helping us as a state to better report the work that's going on with after school. Another big change is we're going to do a 1/4 advance to help with summer school. You know, a lot of districts are at the end of their school year. They're closing out funds, and having a summer school program is difficult. You know, really do the best job possible serving the needs of kids. And we're going to work on in the future something where we can have unclaimed funds redistribution, and I'm still working with the feds on that, and I will keep everyone updated. Continuation grants. Let me say that we are phasing continuation grants out. However, we are still honoring the existing contracts that stated you could have a continuation grant. Statutorily, with the language of the grant, it's a 5-year grant. And what was being allowed was for people to do 2 5-year grants. And that second grant, you were provided with 50% funding for 5 years. Well, what I've seen was, in often cases, that was insufficient, and we had programs that weren't running at the same level, and that's not what we want to serve kids. So um, we're doing things a little bit different now to try to get you maximum funding, and let's go on to a little bit more on this. Okay, for our new applications, we offer a 3-year grant, and for the 3 years you get 100% of the funding, and then we'll come out and do a comprehensive visit, and you can get an additional 2 years funding at 75% of the original funding request. So after that, you can put in for a new grant, and you can once again get full funding. Okay, for those of you that you'll have to put in an application and state that it is continuation, and we will honor those previous contractual agreements. However, just because you had that provision in there didn't guarantee that you would be funded. Last year we had a couple of continuation grants, and only 1 out of 2 received funding. So in the past we had 5 years of the original grant and 5 years continuation to get 10 years of funding. And then after that, there were no other funding possibilities. Another thing that's very important with continuation grants is sustainability. This grant requires, first off, that you have partnerships before you apply, and secondly, that you build these partnerships up so that they can help you sustain the grant when the federal funding is gone. I mean, that's an important understanding. It's not somebody writes you a letter of support just so you can get this money, and when the money is gone, then you don't have to do anything anymore. You want to carefully read the language on here, because you're making a commitment, not just for your school, but within your community as well, to go out and develop those relationships and partnerships to help keep after school going. There's a requirement for a state sustainability plan that you must document. You've got these partnerships, and they're helping you contribute to your after-school program. So this is one of the things that we look at. We check on sustainability. We check that programs are being provided to children at the level that you said you would provide in your document. We verify partnerships, and then we also work, with amendments for any changes in the programs. It's very important that in continuation you're providing the original level of service. So, if you're making an application and you're only doing 50 or 60% of what you were doing when you got full funding, then that's a problem. So that's another reason why we want to phase out the continuation grants. Um, so continuation grants only apply to grants funded before the year 2012. And you must successfully have completed your grant period, and you must have evidence of having met your program goals. So this would apply to cohorts 3, 4, 5, and 6. Those were the ones that had that language. There's 2 submission periods. If you're doing a continuation, you need to turn your grant in first, just so that we can make sure we honor that contract and we'll label and get it in our system as continuation. However, all applications are the same and they're going to be reviewed by the peer reviewers at the same time. Adult literacy partnerships. Around Iowa, we're very fortunate to have a wealth of community colleges, and these community colleges have federal funding to provide adult literacy services. And the ones that I've talked to are all delighted to be willing to partner with an after-school program and provide your community with those adult literacy services. So even though the language at the federal level has about providing GED programs, keep in mind that in Montana, you might be serving kids on an Indian reservation, and you're 100 miles from a college. In that case, yeah, you would want to be doing a GED program locally. However, in Iowa, our community colleges are partners that can provide you with that level of support, and that means also have this in the appendixes there with the contact information for all of the colleges that offer adult literacy services around Iowa. An additional partner is the 4-H Club, and they're divided up here into regions, and these regions serve everywhere in the state of Iowa, and 4-H has some great curriculum opportunities for you. Not only the traditional 4-H, but also they have a lot of STEM curriculum activities that you can take advantage of. So you can go to the 4-H website here. Some of those 4-H resources for your program. Some additional partners, Iowa Public Television. They've got the PBS Electric Company curriculum for after school. And they've got a full-time trainer. I know that we've got several of our grantees that are using this curriculum, and it's a very good one. Everywhere I go in Iowa, I see Hy-Vee, and you know Hy-Vee has nutritional education programs. They love to come into after school, so that's another potential partner. The Food Bank of Iowa, they have a backpack program for kids. The Science Center of Iowa has a traveling science program. They've got a van. They will come to you. If you're not close to Des Moines, you can sign up for that service to come out and work with your kids on some programs. And all around the state, there are local companies that want to partner with after school. In fact, I just had a meeting. I'm here in Sioux City, and I met with the city of Sioux City. They want to provide some local programs and field trips and work studies for kids. So, I mean, this is true all over Iowa. We have some great companies that want to work with supporting schools. And sometimes they don't know who to contact, so you can take the first step and contact your local businesses and ask them about partnering. Okay, some more stuff about the grant itself. We encourage administrative in-kind, and we encourage that funding, especially federal funding, be only used to supplement and not supplant. Because if there's even evidence of supplanting, that can render your grant unfundable. So let's go over some of these things about supplementing and not supplanting. Here's a really good test that came from Illinois, but it's relevant since it's federal to any state. One of the tests is the district wanting to do something that's required under state, local, or another law. If it's required by law, then it's supplanting. Equivalency. Have funds been used in the past to pay for this program? If they were, it could be supplanting. Non-title programs. If the same programs are being implemented in other schools that do not receive title funds, and these programs are paid for with state or local funds, then yeah, it could be supplanting. And then again, you can't use federal funds to backfill. So like if you had an administrator that was being paid for out of some district fund and then you get this grant, you're not going to be able to backfill their salary with these federal funds. What you can do is you can supplement. For example, you may have had Title I and it paid for 20 days of summer school. You must continue that 20 days. However, with the 21st Century funds, you can add another 10 or 20 additional days, pay for those days out of 21st Century funds. The research shows that a minimum of 30 days of summer school has a definite impact on student achievement. And we previously talked about the non-public consultation form. We also have a student needs assessment. And that's critical for setting your program goals. We provide you a template, but you're free to use any student needs assessment that you've got locally. You may already be using something. And with this, set reasonable goals. I know we don't want to see you with another, kind of a No Child Left Behind, where you say that within 3 years, all of our kids are going to be 100% on everything. Well, you don't want to say something like that, because then we're going to, we'll be asking you, well, how come you didn't hit that 100% mark? Be realistic in your growth projections. You may have kids that have achievement gaps, and they're doing 60% on literacy and maybe 55% on math, and you would say, okay, we predict that our kids that are regular attending will be able to get up to the 80% range. Okay, we're going to have training for our grant readers before we do the grant reading. And there's also a federal professional development website, and that's called the U for Youth. It's not bad, so that's another source for you. We also have our own state professional development. We have monthly webinars, and we're termination of a grant. Grants are subject to termination first off, availability of federal funds. That the potential for some of these programs could be in jeopardy, but luckily they've got everything resolved. There's a variety of reasons that a grant could be terminated. We've got Appendix D to provide you with more details. We do require now an electronic copy of your application, and we prefer it in Word. And you should put it on a CD or flash drive with your paper application. I will accept email. However, the burden is on you as to getting that email to me. I mean, you may have a district filtering system, and I know we have several at the state level, and it may not even get to me. So that's why I want to stress you should put it with your paper application to make sure you get credit. Here's our new monitoring tool, and this is an 11-page document aligned with the ESCA. When I do visits now, I'll be and you'll have a record of the visit, and I'll have a record, and I'll have lots of paperwork to provide the feds on their next visit. And keep in mind that, um, I'm reading you the Riot Act here, and it's better to um, give you the worst case scenario. And I want to make sure that I did inform you. Not that we have a lot of problems with this, but I want to make you aware that, these are federal grants, and with them, um, there's really severe penalties on things. So, grant fraud can occur in education grants even when they're not applied for, uh, when money is spent not for their intended purpose, um, through misappropriation or false statements. 9% free and reduced lunch. You can't apply for this grant because 40% or greater is required. So we go by the Title I free and reduced lunch data that's published on the department website. So if it says that you're at 39 and you've got some data from the new enrollment figures that you have internally that says you're now at 42%, you have to go by what's published on the department through Title I. That's, just our standard. And that saves us, a ton of work, and we've got something that's verifiable. You don't want to have any kind of false assertions or anything on your grant that would be considered lack of performance. And also, you don't want to cover up any problems by having documents that don't match the reality. If you have a problem and as you get funded, feel free to contact me. A lot of these things are easily resolved, and I'll help you get a better understanding of what's required so that we can avoid this. There can even be fraud if no money has been received. For example, if you make a false application on this grant, it could be considered a fraudulent application. And normally what we do is if there's something that we see that isn't verifiable, we just say that your grant's not fundable and we leave it at that. But in some states where they have larger staff, they could actually you know, try to go further with this. You know, free and reduced lunch costs, excessive administrative costs, unjustified expenses are all things to be aware of. And again, the penalties for federal education misuse of funds are severe. And, you know, it's my hope that we never have to go down that road. That's why I'd rather tell you this up front when you're applying for the grant, that, you know, this is a serious grant that, you know, you're responsible for making sure that the information is correct and that your signed assurances will be backed up. So, in fact, we had for another federal fund, there was an audit, and the feds wanted us to pay back some money, and it went into an appeal that took 5 years. So, it's better that we spend some time so that we don't have problems down the road. You know, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. If you're a reviewer, we ask that you let us know this stuff up front. Even after the review, I spend several weeks going over every application and contacting everybody to make sure that we've got all the information and it's accurate, verifiable, because we want to have good programs. If you get funded from this program, you're going to be a showcase that other districts can look to for after-school programs. If you're a community group, there's a provision that you have an annual audit, but that applies when you get federal money for in excess of $500,000 from all your federal sources. Districts do not have to worry. They have an annual school audit that we accept, and you don't have to do anything additional. What's expected of you in this grant? Number one, serve the needs of children. We want you to be a model of after-school programming that we can communicate to others. We want you to have a web page that what's required is that you communicate. You want to have some pictures, enrollment forms on there. That's all optional and can help your program. But you must put your local annual evaluation up there. And then developing and cultivating community partnerships. That's also required as part of this grant. If you turn in an application without partnerships, you won't get funded. It's a requirement. But now keep in mind, we've provided you with a couple of resources. Community college, and if you're especially, the 4-H club does some great work, and they're also happy to partner. So, not seeing something as a partnership It's, shows that you weren't paying attention to the language of this grant. Okay, more of what's expected of you. Again, serve the needs of children. That's most important, and it bears being on more than one slide. We have quarterly claims that you need to submit. We want you to get paid in a timely manner. And also, we need you to attend webinars, state PD events, and conferences. You must also do a local evaluation, and that's something you've got to line up as part of your grant application. Who's going to do your evaluation? And we're flexible. We don't have a company you must go through. You can use the university. Some of our AEAs have evaluators. Evaluators that'll work with your local evaluators to make sure that the data we get is consistent. There's PPIX, which is a federal reporting system that we input our data into. And then also, if you have changes in your program, you need to communicate that with me so that I can make sure that you don't get in trouble and you're doing things in an appropriate manner. This is what the PPIX system looks like online. If you're funded, we'll create an account for you. And we have PPIX training at our spring conference. Here's an example of a state report on grantees, and we run PPIX reports that give us some more information. You may get an email asking you to verify your PPIX data, or maybe that you forgot something. So we've got do reports for me as well. Okay, there's an example application, Davenport Schools from 2012. I'm not going to show you this right now. We don't have a whole lot of time, but it's included in the application materials. What I want you to notice is that the administrative costs is in costs, and this is the kind of thing that's going to make the after school sustainable for them over the long haul. That's why it's a great example. And I also have some notes on there that you can use and benefit from, and some of those are tied in with the federal statute. Here's a little announcement for our spring conference. If you don't get funded, because we always have at least twice as many applications than we are able to fund with limited money, it would be beneficial for you to attend this conference and get ideas about partners that are there, different programs you could do. So it's a wonderful opportunity for you. And again, if you have any questions, please contact right now, because I think that it may not go through since I am now in Sioux City.